Hi, it's John at Brotherton-accountscom. Today I'm just going to do a video for people that are starting to use XERO for VAT submissions. So obviously we've got a lot of clients who use XERO, and you know we often help them with it, but also they do it themselves. So this is where we would sort of point people in the right direction on some of the checks that they need to do and some of the initial setups that they need to do. So I'll go straight into it. So your starting point for just checking all your settings would be under your name, go into your settings, and then here advanced settings, and then you go into your financial settings, which is where you're going to put in what scheme you're in. So accrual scheme, cash scheme, flat rate, accrual or flat rate cash, whether it's monthly, quarterly. Most people are quarterly, and then you've got your VAT number that you need to put in there. So if you're not sure about what scheme you're on or what you should be on, depending on what industry you're in, we advise people on that, obviously, and we're more than happy to give any advice if anybody phones the offices. So that's your starting point. You need to make sure your settings are right. Your VAT on your XERO lives here, so you go into your accounting and then you can go down to your VAT returns. So when you click on there, now obviously everybody now is within the rules for making tax digital. Now I can't connect this is just a demo company, so what you would normally be doing is connecting it to HMRC via your gateway. So what you need is your gateway ID and you need your password, and then it will give you the option to go in to making tax digital and connecting your XERO. So usually, as long as you've got your gateways right and you've got your settings right and you've got your VAT numbers in correctly, it shouldn't be a problem connecting to HMRC. So it literally is a case of making sure you've got your gateway, making sure you're VAT registered, and then making sure that you connect. So what I'm going to do in this instance now is just pretend that we're registered and just go into this option, which is a manual option. Like I say, nobody will be using this now. So if we can imagine, we're logging in and then we're going into our accounting VAT return, and then it will bring up your open period, usually a quarter, and it will allow you to access this screen, which is effectively showing you your VAT calculations. Now this is only as good as the inputting that you put in, so you've got to make sure that you get your sales in correctly, which is usually not the issue. The issue can very often be the input tax recovery. So your output tax is on your sales and your input tax is the recoverable VAT on your purchases. And what you really should be looking for is making sure you've got a receipt to back everything up as you put it through the system. So this is where you're going into. So if we imagine we've put in the dates, we've got the quarter 1st of Jan 23 to 31st of March 23, and it's bringing up these numbers. Now as a starting point, what I would always recommend people do is just check your percentages. So what we very often do, we'll download the Excel file, and then open that up, and then this gives us obviously those workings in an Excel format. Now it amazes me people don't do this, and over the years working as an accountant, anybody that does that, I'll always say this to them, and this is absolutely 100% what you should be doing. So if you imagine you'll owe whatever VAT on your sales is your output tax, which is that box there, and so the VAT is your output tax on your sales, and there's your net sales figure. So technically that figure should be 20% of that figure if all your sales are 20%. So what we always say to people is if you divide that figure into that figure, that should come back to 20%. So it's just a few thousandth over, but it's basically 20% apart from rounding. So that would indicate as an initial starting point that the numbers look okay from a percentages perspective. Now the other scenario is there's your net purchases and there's your recoverable VAT, your input tax. So we're basically saying that figure divided into that figure should be at least 20%. Now this can be, if it's more than 20%, there's an error. So that's why we'd always say to people, check your percentages, make sure they're right. So if we say equals that figure divided by that figure, so we're saying the VAT recoverable is 599 and it's on net purchases of that, which is 18%. So we're effectively recovering 18.5404% of our purchases. Now that would indicate to me that that's probably right, because you're in, certainly from a percentages perspective, like I say, if it was over 20%, then that'd be an error. So if that figure there, for instance, was £800, we're recovering £800 on net purchases of 3231, which is 24%. So that would straight away spark warning signs to us. We'd be saying there's an error there. As it stands, we've got 599 recoverable on 3231, so we're recovering 18%. Now that would indicate to me that there's some zero rated or some exempt supplies going, not exempt, but probably zero rated items going through your VAT return, which is effectively bringing down the percentage, because when a zero rated item goes into that number, but it doesn't, obviously the percentage is zero, so the number is zero, so there's a zero going into there, but there's some value going in there, so we're effectively reducing the percentage. So that's a key one for me. I would always suggest people do that, and that would be my starting point really. If we were looking at your VAT return there, we would be saying that's what you need to double check. So once we know the percentages are right, then you've got the option here then to click into transactions per VAT box. So we can go through here and we can just go in and just have a look and make sure all the dates are right. You know, we haven't duplicated anything. You know, so there's our box 1 figures, and we've got our box 4 figures, which is our recoverable, input tax recoverable. And then these are all our purchases that are going through. There we've got an adjusted one, so that's obviously something that's been amended. We've got light, power and heat, which is at 5%, which brings down our percentages because we're only claiming 5% on £100 there. So that's where our percentages are being dropped. And then these are our box 6 figures, our box 7 figures. And then down here we've got our box 7 figures, but at 5%. So that's what's bringing our percentages down, the 5% items. Okay, so that's just a rough idea of where you go as a starting point with your VAT. I've done other videos, so the other ones we've done are checking for duplicates and making sure that, you know, there's quite a few other checks that you can do. So have a look for those videos. You know, it gives you a bit more information in terms of once you get to the point you're happy with everything, you know, you can then go in and audit it a little bit in a little bit more detail, and just before you do your submissions. Okay, so that's just a short one there, just to give people an idea of where to go and how to get started using XERO for the VAT. Okay, hopefully see you next time. Thanks, bye.